Now look, the memory is everything. If you have absolutely no memory, what about no memory? Supposing you have the minimal memory that forgets God, forgets to remind yourself of the possibility of God existing, then when difficulties arise, like you can't find something, and you think it's crucial, like, I don't know, your home or your car or where you live or something, and you can't remember God, then you're in chaos. So what do you do to remember God? You see, in my dream just now, I couldn't find the car. At some point in it, I couldn't find my bag, but I did find the bag. And I realized I couldn't find the car, and the people around me were not helping me find the car. At one stage, I was in a boat with a man who was, for some reason, going to help, and his mind seemed to flip, and he was driving like a madman across the harbour. It was a military harbour too. When we passed a battleship that dipped its guns, would you believe it? A sort of salute or something, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't actually going to blow us out of the water, I don't mean that. It just saluted the guns by dipping them. Well, I suppose there's another sort of salute where you fire the guns, 21 gun salute, but anyway, it didn't do that. But there's no way I could find the car. I think in the end I did find the car, but in amazing worry and frustration. Again, I was in something like a university where I couldn't find the place earlier in the dream. I couldn't find where I change. I would change up doing something. I mean, I hadn't been swimming, but I don't know what it was, but I would change in my study room, but it wasn't clear I had a study room or whether I had an office or where it was. And I couldn't recognize in the corridors where I should be. So the whole dream seems to constitute a great chaos, loss, and inability to correct the loss, and the panic of how serious this is. Now, on reflection, I can see that one of the major things that might have pulled me out was trusting in God and believing in God. And then, things might have gone right. Now, there was none of that. There was no God in the dream. I'm not sure whether I was thanking God when I actually found the bag. I was very happy that I'd found it. Terrifically so, greatly relieved. I was relieved too, I think, at some point, if I found the car, and I can't be quite sure whether I did or not now. There was an amazing miracle in the boat stopped by, I think it was a naval ship. The people got out. I realised the key was still in the ignition. I started the key. The boat drifted away from the battleship, if you like, whatever the naval ship was. And I realised the key was still in the ignition. Not driven a boat before, turned the key, off I went. And presumably it wasn't just I, because I was amazed at some point how it was me steering the boat, but then somehow it steered exactly into the jetty where it should be, and that actually fitted the front shape of the boat, and everything was wonderful. And I was remembering thinking, astonishing how well he can, because it was now in my mind someone else, steer the boat. And I got out and got back onto the shore, and things seemed to go right. But I think when there was someone, things seemed to go right. We were staying somewhere, but I realised I didn't know where the car was. And every now and again I went through the back into a sort of pool place, and have someone busily sewing up, mending something in there, which it was sort of important what they were doing, but the important thing was we hadn't found the car yet, and there may have been other details in the dream. I know I was searching the streets for the car, but the streets seemed to change. I couldn't get back to the sort of view where I had been, where I first possibly left the car. And I noticed the city had rather strange buildings. They didn't go up straight or taper like most city buildings. Some of these actually sort of fluted out at the top, or almost bent over. Very impressive, modern, good-looking buildings, but an incredibly urban area. Okay, enough of the dream, because really the dream was chaos. The main feature of the dream, on reflection, was the complete absence of an awareness of God. Now, this is a bit strange with someone like me who's pretty obsessed with God. And, of course, the other major thing was the sheer terror of frustration of not being able to find something of great importance. Now, on reflection, you could say the car and the bag and so on, and the inability to control and remember what's going on is symbolic of losing your grasp, your awareness, your consciousness of God. And so the dream is saying to me, what happens if that happened? As in the case of, say, extreme dementia. You can't remember your name. Do you get to a point too where you can't remember God, and therefore you're in the great distress? So let me stop there for a moment, because at the minute, remember, I don't have the answer. Well, I know how to get the answer because I have consciousness at the minute. Consciousness of the possibility of God. I would say, let's thank God for it. So I'd say, thank you, Heavenly Father, for the dream. It's very stressful. Wouldn't like to go through that too often by any means. But thank you for the dream. You're an all-powerful God, and you've given the dream, allowed the dream. It's a great blessing. Thank you. Is there a solution? How am I to handle this experience? At the minute, I don't know. Thank you, Father, that I don't know. The whole world suffers situations of phenomenal chaos and loss, and they don't know how to get out. What's the solution for them? Well, in the world situation, I know, don't I, that it's there's evidence of God everywhere which would remind you. But in a case like my ex-wives, somehow it doesn't. The first one had chronic postnatal depression. She'd go out on a walk where, the walk should bring the presence of God. She'd come back full of gloom and doom about them cutting the trees down, and it didn't get through to her. She didn't find God in the walk. The second one, I don't know, she lost her mind into things like Sudoku and I don't know what else. What did happen with the second one? Obviously she went off martial, but don't know. Third one, it's clearer. She, all three gave up religion first. They all put God aside first. The first one less obviously so, but I did feel it. Certainly wasn't thanking God for everything or anything like that. And even though in all three cases I continued to, in my view of God, and wanting to pull them back, and you know, my interest in God is enough to remind anyone of God. It's in your face, really. That doesn't do it. There was a case of willfully moving away from what would have been the answer and pulled them back to full appreciation of how valuable we'd been to each other prior to such discord, such reformulation of who I was in their mind. Let me say for a moment, if you're really disappointed in God, you know, someone you love dies, say, or suffers greatly, or you feel that changing circumstances are, well, why didn't God rescue me? Then in some sense, suddenly, these people can remove God from their consciousness list, or even feel hostile to him, don't they? They feel angry with God for not coming to the rescue as they see it. That would remove God from the picture, wouldn't it? It does. I mean, all three wives, as I see it, descend into chaos after leaving me. And I don't. There's a temporary chaos in the sheer desperation of losing them. But I recover into good circumstances and good situation. And by good I mean closeness with God and circumstances changing for the good. I don't mean life is then without fault. There's the usual sort of problems that are there done. I'm concerned about whether my accommodation really should change and whether my finances would hold up in old age. But you can handle them with a good consciousness of God. And I need to know what would maintain that in all circumstances. What maintains? I mean, you could literally write God on your hand so that you look down and, you know, but that won't help if you're now blaming God. If you suddenly really feel in your experience that God is letting you down in the hardships are not just known to be being experienced by the world, but you're one of the people truly experiencing them. Ongoing deterioration and the future looks bleak the way it's going. And you can't trust God. You doubt God because of the weight of the circumstances. What can be always there to come to your rescue? And the answer is, well, only God. Only God is the eternal thing, unless, of course, he comes and picks you up again. If he doesn't, and you forget or you willfully pull away, and he doesn't come to pick you up again, and doesn't have a run, and by pick you up I probably mean a run of miracles where God's all meaningful in your mind and consciousness again. If he doesn't do that, if he didn't do that, then you're in trouble. So, the difficulty may not drive you to turn to God. That's the worry. You know, my dream was extremely difficult. It didn't seem to drive me to remembering to trust God. If I had done in the dream, well, I'm the maker of the dream. The dream would have gone right. And that is so with what we call reality. If I don't remember God, then the dream of reality can go wrong and stay wrong. Or perhaps the dream is random and suddenly it can be going right again. But how long it goes wrong, how long it goes wrong for, how long it has a series of catastrophes that don't give you hope, could be quite long. So, in some visual sense, we need to make the very bedrock of our being God. So that I lose consciousness I'd have to lose consciousness of everything. The consciousness of even the catastrophe and the problem and the loss going on. I'd have to lose that completely before I can risk losing consciousness of God. And then it's okay if I've completely lost consciousness and it stays lost. Except for the consciousness of God. And then you lose that. Well, it's okay, you're not consciousness of worry after that, are you? Because you have no consciousness left. That may be the explanation as to why there's martyrdom. It is better to hold the consciousness of God right up to the last, consciousness to go. To refuse to think of anything other than God with the consciousness you have left. So the car in my mind should not be that blue car. It was in fact I knew I've had a year and a half. My current car, lovely car, blue car. It was a lovely car. It has got John 17 written on it, but I don't remember seeing John 17 or thinking of that when I thought of the car. I thought of the car. I mean, it almost has to have in my mind a picture of Jesus written all over it. God, you know, some representation of Heavenly Father. John 17 is, but it's not written all over it, it's only on the registration plate. So the only way not having the consciousness of God is tolerable is if there is no other consciousness anyway, none at all. But to have some consciousness, but it not include the consciousness of God, is frightening. Now, most of the people you meet have much more than some consciousness. They have consciousness of light and the room around them. They may be staring at wonder at it, but it's the room. They're aware of you talking to them. Now, a person with Alzheimer's extreme can't remember who you are. May be back at the level even of you're talking, you're there in front of them and it's different, but they can't make out what this is. I mean, you're a person, obviously, from our point of view, but if I would just be looking at you blankly, not knowing what to make of this phenomena. Well, you don't lose the consciousness of I in the dream. I am the one that's lost in the dream or having the difficulty or frightened or whatever it is. Who am I? I'm a child of God. Oh. Now that starts to change the dream. In other words, your bedrock needs to be who you are. The prodigal remembered he was a child of God. Maybe wayward, but he's still a child of God. That gives hope, not of oneself, but in who God is. Children are very wayward, of course, but God is God, the epitome of integrity, faithfulness and truth, the perfect parent, and I'm his child. Well, I'm made then, aren't I? Now, I am struck, and I was thinking by listening to this recording, I'm struck by the demented older people that I do know, and some of them quite extreme demented, still recall God. They still talk about the Lord and so on. They're the ones I know are Christian background of some sort. And if you sing them a hymn of their time that they know, or the words that they know, oh yes, their mind can run on that. No matter how demented they were. I mean, my father-in-law's mum in India had been just non-conscious for I don't know how long, laying in bed. I mean, years. Many years, as far as I could see. Son still faithfully looking after her. Wonderful chap, my father-in-law. I thought I'll sing to her Seventh-day Adventist hymns, any of them in the book that I know anyway. And I've got a book there because he is still Seventh-day Adventist. So I was singing to her, and of course that was all very familiar. That's in a bedrock memory. And I got a response. I know it was a loveliness to her. She had some sort of awareness of, or at least what I was doing, singing what she knew, and possibly my personhood in the room. But I could just tell, I don't mean she talked to me. But I was getting the right response. Lovely. So, what's my solution to the dream? Where you make sure that, but you, Marshall, were already bedrock on God, aren't you? Yes, that's true, and I did lose it in the dream. Well, perhaps I'm reliant on God reminding me again. And I could say, well, he didn't in the dream, but I am awake now. After all, but for God, I might never have awoken from the dream. What I'm saying is that I might not have the answer, but still I trust him. Ah, well, that was a different outcome to what I was quite expecting to look for. I'm reliant on him rescuing me, of course. Any Christian could have told you that.